Good day, and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. The time has finally come for the spoiler-free review of Brandon Sanderson's Wind and Truth, the fifth book of the Stromlight archive. This ends the first arc. Stay tuned, that's coming up here on Drew's Book Reviews. Alright, so let's talk about Wind and Truth. This is a book that I have been waiting for several years, as if not the most anticipated release of 2024. It took me about a month to read it. This is a big book, 1,329 pages. This book is just absolutely massive in its scope, but so is the Stromlight archive, and so is the Stromlight archive world. This will be a spoiler-free review of Wind and Truth. But also keep in mind that this is the fifth book in the series, so you can't really expect me to have no spoilers for anything previous to this book. It's hard to talk about book 5 without mentioning something about the first few books. If you haven't gotten into the Stromlight archive already, it's something that I highly recommend if you've already read some other Brandon Sanderson. If not, I've got a great video. I'll try and link it in the cards about my recommended Cosmere Brandon Sanderson reading order. Certainly isn't where I'd start the Cosmere, but it is absolutely worth reading if you've gotten into the Cosmere and haven't gotten to Stromlight Archive yet. So this book picks up right after the events we see in Rhythm of War. A duel for champions has been set between Dalinar and Odium. There are 10 days until this contest of champions to determine the fate of Roshar and possibly the entire Cosmere as a whole. Each side must choose their champions. And we don't know what's going to happen. Well, I do because I've read it, but you don't because maybe you haven't read it yet. But if you have, maybe you know. Anyway, this book is really kind of set up a little bit differently than the other books. One thing that is noticeable about this book is it's split into 10 days. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get the idea. So it's split into 10 separate days with interludes in between. Now, between each set of days, there are 2 interludes. Plus, there's a postlude at the end of the book as well. And one thing that I noticed is that the interludes are much shorter than the interludes in the other Stromlight books. Now, this is not a bad thing. In fact, this just works well with the book. You get like this little snippet or screenshot of things that are going on in the background that aren't really through the entire story, but have some very interesting things going on, and I'll just leave it at that. I really like the way that Sanderson split this up into 10 days for each day as our storyline progresses. I thought that was a really cool thing, because usually with these big fantasy tones, we don't really... Sometimes, you kind of have an idea of how much time has passed, but you're not always certain. Sometimes it could be months or years or weeks throughout the story. Sometimes it can be really quick. This is a linear 10-day progression of everything that's going on within this world and this book and this story, and I really liked how Sanderson set that up and did that very well. There were many twists and turns throughout this book, throughout this story, that I did not see coming, and I loved seeing that. I love how these little wrenches were thrown in. You think one thing and then it ends up being another, or you're not even sure what to expect, and then when it comes at you, you're like, whoa, I did not see that coming. That I thought was just a lot of fun, and it's what makes such a good book, what makes such good writing and so much entertaining fun within this world of Stromlight archive. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So, trying to avoid spoilers, I just do want to say that the events that happen within the spiritual realm, within this storyline, within this arc or this volume of this story, I really enjoyed that, because it really kind of helped open up a lot of more history of the world of Roshar and the Cosmere and the gods. And I'm not going to say who is there, how it happened, where it happened, when it happened, but I really enjoyed that aspect of this storyline as well. I thought that was honestly a lot of fun, kind of getting more of that history within that. The writing overall, I thought was just fantastic. I thought it was a good ending as well. I liked the ending of this story. Was it what I expected? No, absolutely not. I expected a different type of ending on this, and that's not what we got, and there's nothing wrong with that. I liked it. I thought it set it up really well. I knew this was only the end of the first arc of this Wind and Truth, so I was expecting something that wouldn't quite maybe finish everything off or leave it a little bit open, And it definitely did that. It just did it in a way that I didn't expect. And I just thought, whoa, that is so cool. That's actually a really cool ending. Now, I know some people are kind of like, meh, in the middle of it, but I actually like the way it did things at the end there, which really just kind of set the stage so effectively for the next arc in the Stromlight archive, while simultaneously kind of helping to wrap things up. Did it answer all of our questions about this? No, absolutely not, because it's not the end of the story. And to be honest, I never expected all of our questions and everything we were wondering about to be answered within this volume. I did not expect that to happen, but I also didn't expect it to end the way that it did. And that's kind of what makes it so fun and so much entertaining. So that's kind of what I loved about this book. It's what I loved about this volume in this story. So let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that weren't so great. I mean, if you follow me on hardcover, or, you know, I posted down in the Discord, which will be linked below, of course, the Dragon's Den Discord, I didn't give this a full 5 out of 5 star review, which I know I'm a bit of a Sanderson nerd. I gush about these things because I absolutely love Sanderson's writing so much, but this wasn't a perfect book. It was not a 5 out of 5. I gave it a 4 out of 5, which is still a pretty good rating, but there are some things that, you know, maybe didn't work so well within this book. And one of those things is, first and foremost, I do want to say that Kaladin and Zeph's side quest, I love reading about it. I love learning about it, more about Zeph and his past and that kind of thing, and Kaladin and Zeph's side quest. And I won't really say much about it because, again, I don't want to give any spoilers, but I felt for the vast majority of it is you could take that whole part of the storyline, you could cut it out completely and publish it as a separate book, and we wouldn't have lost so much with respect to the main storyline of Wind and Truth. So you really could have cut this book down by, you know, a couple hundred pages by taking out Zeph and Kaladin's storyline and just kind of putting that into a separate Stromlight novel, which I think would have worked just as well. It was absolutely a very interesting side quest. I did enjoy, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy reading about it, but I also felt that the book could have been just as good, maybe a wee tad bit better in some ways, if we had separated that into a separate book rather than part of Wind and Truth. So that's kind of one of the drawbacks of it. One of the other drawbacks I found with this is, and I want to say that I applaud Sanderson for doing this. I really do. I think he's trying hard. And, you know, I mentioned it before. I grew up in the Mormon religion. I know Sanderson's Mormon. I know the feelings on LGBTQ issues as far as the Mormon theology and doctrine goes. I know the kind of environment that church creates towards this group of people because I lived it. And Sanderson has put some of that into with two characters that are gay, essentially. And first and foremost, I want to say that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm very much a supporter of that community. And I really applaud Sanderson for getting that in there. But definitely the characters involved in this, they definitely kind of came across to me as a bit nervous and unsure. And maybe that fits the world as well. But I felt like it kind of came about a little bit as a reflection of Sanderson trying to put this in. And maybe he wasn't feeling totally confident, but wanted to bring this out in his writing anyway to discuss these important issues. So it kind of felt like it was put in there for the sake of having it in there and being part of that discussion, but didn't necessarily flow naturally or, you know, as well with the story as maybe it could have if it were to be included in the first place. So again, I do want to absolutely emphasize that I am 100% behind this community, the supporter of this community, 100%. And this is not about me saying this shouldn't be in the books at all or this writing. It's just how it was put in. It didn't flow as smoothly or feel as natural as maybe it could have been. But again, I have to applaud Sanderson for putting that in there and writing it and, you know, making the effort. Like, kudos to him, man, especially knowing the religious community that he's involved with and knowing how that community feels about these things. And not that he put a negative spin on it. It was a very positive thing that he did. Like, the way he presents, I think he was doing a really good effort in positively representing this community. And I think that that's a great thing. So it's just kind of one of the drawbacks. So in terms of how that was handled, he's getting better. I will say that. I have seen in previous books, like, there's kind of mentions of it here and there. But so I think he's getting better at bringing that representation forth. One of the other drawbacks and I believe Chas mentioned this in one of his videos as well, was, now one thing I absolutely applaud Sanderson for doing as well is representation of mental health issues within his books. That has been a big theme in the Stromlight archive, is mental health. And that's such an important discussion, such an important conversation, that we need to have that conversation. And I think overall he's representing mental health issues here pretty well within his story, as far as what those mental health issues be, whether that's multiple personality disorder or whatever it's called now. I do apologize if I'm getting that wrong, but I think that's what it's called. Or whether that's dealing with like severe depression and battle shock and things like that. One thing that we don't see a lot of fantasy authors tackling is many fantasy works involve like combat and war and battle in some aspect, but we really don't see much about the mental health toll it takes on the individual soldiers who have lived through that war. And I think that Sanderson has done a really good job in emphasizing and highlighting those mental health issues resulting from those challenges that these people have had to go through, and the psychological consequences of war. I think he did a really great job representing that. Where this didn't work so well, and again, I want to say, I don't think he did an absolutely terrible job at this. I really don't. But there was kind of this therapy aspect put into it. So for the one side, he's bringing in and representing these issues and the consequences on the individual characters for their psychological war, effects of war. And now he's kind of bringing in trying to resolve this through a therapy aspect, which, great job on getting that in there, like trying to work it out. I love that you're trying there, but I'm not sure that the whole therapy side really worked as well as it could have. But when all said and done, I have to say this is a 4 out of 5, easily. Definitely one of the best books that I've read all year. I know it's still early in the year. One of the best books I've read in 2024. And overall, I love the Stromlight archive. Fantastic world, just awesome. Absolutely love it. And I cannot wait for the second arc, however long that's going to take. It's going to be a long time. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the spoiler-free review of Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, Book 5 of the Stromlight Archive. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear from you. Join me in the Discord as well. And, just let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, keep on reading. Bye.